about equal size groups, and each of the leaders will take one of the groups and go to their spot. And then they'll have about 15 minutes at that lot, and then follow a counterclockwise route around the garden to the next one. There are two on that side, and so we're going to start that direction. John's is at the end at the bottom near the entrance into the gardens, and then Lisa is going to be meeting here.
Yep.
So, so 4 groups. You'll eventually do the whole thing, but it'll be done on a counterclockwise rotation.
I've been here over 30 years, and back then there were 5 people who lived up on the hill here who went to the college and said, can we use some of your land, which was under cultivation by the college for flowering trials. And the caretaker's house was down at the gate here, and a sign of spring back then was when they plowed the field with an animal, a horse or a mule. Anyway, so the college said yes, and they started, and each of these guys, 5 guys, had plots that were huge. I mean, like at least half an acre each. It was not really used that much. As more people joined, a lot of land became fallow. We had this circle right here, and the college kept this side for their use. So for a long time, we didn't have many gardeners here. But then you could tell how society changed. Back in the 80s, when people started to learn about going back to the land, there was a crush here. The Great Recession of 2008, 2009, there was a 20-year wait list. No one was giving up their plots, and people wanted to have a plot here. You could tell that everything recovered because people dropped off and said, oh, never mind, I don't want the plot. And then until COVID hit, and then we hit another big crush of people wanting to come. But then, before that, the college decided to sell the land to raise money to redo their dorms. And even before that, they tried to put a housing in here for retirees from college, but that fell through because of the traffic on Western Road was so bad they couldn't get building permits to do it. But anyway, they decided to sell the land, and they hired a bunch of lawyers. They could break all the deeds and restrictions so that the land was given to them back at the turn of the century, the 1800s. And they sold it to the town for lots and lots of money, with the restriction that about 1/3 of it would be put under conservation easement. And that has been laid out. It does not include the gardens, but we're hoping that they'll stay protected as well. And that's been 10 years, and I haven't done the conservation restriction, which is going to go to the Conservation Land Trust under Michael's leadership. So that's great. There aren't many towns in eastern Massachusetts that have this much land available for community gardening. Most of the times you see towns that they give you a little, by 20 square feet. Most of these plots are 20 feet by 40 feet. Some are a little bit bigger, some are a little bit smaller. Mine started at 20 by 40. It's much bigger now. I took out all the invasives around me.
Yeah, so Michael Tobin, I'm president of the Wellesley Conservation Land Trust. I got into this mess because I had my garden plot over there. I've been here, I think, 15, 16 years now. And I just wanted to keep growing my garlic and tomatoes, and I'll tell you more about that over there. But when the college decided to sell this land 10 years ago, I got involved with the Wellesley Conservation Land Trust, which has been around since 1958. We protect 10 sanctuaries in town, and were created before there was a Wetlands Commission, before there was a Natural Resources Commission in town. And I'm proud to say and announce, we have it in our newsletter here, we have many new protections underway in town. Much of the green space you see in town is not protected. And so all of a sudden when it gets sold, when the family turns over, they sell the land, and that condo development goes up, how could this be? It's not protected. So take a flyer about the Wellesley Conservation Land Trust. We are working with the town and the select board. There is a designation currently, you can see it on the map here, of 1/3 of this property, 46 acres, 1/3 of it to be protected under a permanent conservation restriction, which we would hold, but that's currently stalled. And so you can let the select board know you'd like to see that move forward. And you can let the select board know you'd also like to see more of this protected, maybe with some additional housing, affordable housing, on one side of it. We can do more housing and more land protection. It's not either or. So that's where the current state of this property.
Give as an introduction, I'm Lisa Moore. I work for the town of Wellesley. I am their environmental education outreach and coordinator. So I do environmental education in town. I go in the schools. I do stuff around town for adults. I also do some compliance work when people do work in wetlands. If there is accidental tree removal and things of that nature, I try to educate them to figure out how to fix that and repair kind of the area. The NRC kind of manages this garden. So if you're interested, there is a wait list, but you can get on the wait list by emailing the NRC, nrc@wellesleyma.gov. You can get on a wait list for a piece of this wonderful little garden plot. And when you come over here, I'll talk a little bit more about the ecology around here and around the North 40 and why it's so important to protect it. Okay?
The town has a greenhouse gas emissions reduction goal, and doing things like this helps us meet the goal. If you're interested in other actions you can do, there's tons of things, big and small. Vote, put in solar, everything in between. If you want to get involved, reach out.
I do have, I'm protecting it from the sun. I have a lot of watermelon slices. If anyone wants some now because they're thirsty, I chose it because it's 100% biodegradable. We literally just throw the rinds over there and that's fine. So that's the snack we're providing. I'm going to take it off in case anyone wants one on the start. And now we should divide into groups. Do you want to do this? We're lucky.
More friends over here.
And this is going to be the best one.
We'll just start walking. How's this work? Well, no, I think out might be easier. So, welcome to Plot 29. The theme of this talk is about lazy gardening. Because I got all enthusiastic when I got my plot here about 15 years ago, and you jump right in and all high expectations, and the next thing you know is the weeds take over everything, and of course we're always fighting weeds. So and then we all have busy lives, and so while you want to garden, you've got a lot of other responsibilities. So what I have done through the years is read about, learned about, and created and developed techniques to spend less time here, or quality time here, as it will be. Still spend a fair amount, but this is about 30 feet by 50 feet, so it's a small farm. And our family eats food from here 12 months of the year. Things that we harvest, we put away or we jar and can eat all year round. And for our family, eating local has been important to us. We also belong to a community meat share, Chestnut Farms. And so we get 10 or 15 pounds of meat each month from a local farm. And so to sit down at a meal with your family and know that you grew it right here, or it came from a farm within 15 miles of here, and all sustainably managed. So I'll start off with a couple things and then ask questions. First is, most of the things I learned and started with came from this book, Vegetable Gardener's Bible, and a lot of the techniques in here, the word systems. Wide rows, organic methods, raised beds, and deep soil. That's really the start of the key to not a lot of maintenance to it. So I had the place rototilled once, 15 years ago. I, with a shovel, just dug through my paths and dumped it on the beds. And that's it. What I do each year for some of the beds, when they get compacted, don't turn them over all the way. If you turn over your beds all the way, essentially you're bringing up weeds You're allowing new weeds to establish themselves. And all the microorganisms and the worms and everything you're disturbing. And so what they say in this book is don't do that. Do it once and then just put mulch on top or compost. Every couple of years I get a dump of cow manure from a local farm and dump it on the beds. We also, from the stables of Dana Hall, they come and they empty out their stables, they put it on the side, and that's what this is mulch that we put on top. And you pull back the mulch, and there's just, the soil is dark and moist and full of worms, and that's how you keep your garden. You let nature do its work and do its job, not you. And so what I do is, if a bed, I am going to plant it with new vegetables, I just loosen it up a little bit after the winter time. That's it. And let some air get in there, let the worms have room to move about, and that's it. I recommend Johnny's Seeds. It's an employee-owned company in Maine, and I figure if things can grow in Maine, then they can grow here. So any seeds I get and things. My original garlic stock came from Johnny's. I'll talk about that in a moment, so I recommend them. You'll see, I said, the weeds here are ferocious. And I don't know whether it's a community public health thing where so many garden plots and so many places for weeds to establish. If you have one bit of dirt, it will develop a weed. Now, you've also probably heard the saying, there's no such thing as a weed, it's a desirable plant in the wrong spot in my garden. And so, anyway, so to try to keep the weeds at bay, heavy mulching, cover everything. I also use heavy-duty garden fabric, as you can see here. I find these last for a couple of years. You do have to blow them off. If compost or dirt ends up here, weeds will start right there on your head. So I use the electric blower and just blow them off to keep them clean. And they last a couple of years, and that helps a lot. I don't put mulch on top. I'm not gardening here, and I'm just doing that. The other technique I use, you can't see it here, I don't currently have it, but I put the garden fabric, the weed fabric, on a bed, and then I cut X's in it. And then in each X, that's where I put the seedling. You just put the fabric back, and that's where I put the seedling. So everything else is covered and protected. So that's a little bit about it. The other thing I do, you can see, I've got lots of these. I go through about 1 or 2 quarts of yogurt a week. That's my breakfast. And what I do is I cut out the bottom of it, and then around when I put in that seedling, whether it's in the mulch or it's in the garden fabric, I put this around it. I have a friend who threw some things in. I gave her one bed, so she threw these in 2 weeks ago. But what you can see is she put in some seedlings from lettuce, different types of lettuce and Swiss chard, and then put the cup around it. The key here is when you go and water, if you just fill up the cup now, you've got 3 inches of water that go directly to the roots. And I find once the seedlings establish for a week or 2 or 3, where you need to water it more often, that's good even in drought. Once a week, fill up the cup, 3 inches right to the root. Just with the garden hose, I fill up each cup, 3 seconds each. If you're sitting here with a sprayer and you're thinking you're watering weeds, you're evaporating. And if you actually go and you sit here for 5 minutes and you watered like this and you dug down in the dirt, you'd find you'd have about a 1/4 inch of water. Your water didn't go to the weeds. It didn't go to the roots. you watered the top layer of weeds. And so you've got to figure out how to get the water down there. This is the best method. I use my yogurt cups. You may find at the RDF some PVC piping. I think it's 4-inch piping I cut up. Use that. This has been here use this for 15 years. This will last forever. And so those are some techniques for watering. In terms of plants, I grow a lot of food here. Garlic, I'll talk about in a minute. Strawberries, and I'm getting the strawberries out of here. That's what we're giving away. Take one before you leave. I'm establishing a new bed for strawberries. Been using this for 8 years or so, and I'm finding it's not as productive as much. And so going to establish a new bed. Multiple kinds of lettuce, Swiss chard, butternut squash, ton of butternut. We had butternut squash soup all winter long. Phenomenal. Wife's phenomenal with that. Summer squashes. The trick there for summer squashes, I find, slice it up into about 1/4 inch thick. Olive oil, salt, pepper, any other seasoning you want. Grill it both sides. Phenomenal. In the back, I've got raspberry plants. Those, I just planted some peas 2 weeks ago, and you can see the netting and the trellis that I have for peas back there. Those have just started to sprout. And I'm sure I'm forgetting a bunch of other things. But my specialty is garlic. So this past season I planted about, it was close to 250 heads of garlic. And it's the easiest, it's a very low maintenance food item. So I purchased from Johnny's a number of years ago my initial starter seeds, both elephant garlic and regular garlic. And the way you think about it is, think about them as tulip bulbs. So each clove you plant in the fall, very late fall now as our winter's warm, late October, November, but before the ground freezes. You plant one clove, pointy side up, and then heavily mulch it. And you do that in the late fall. And then in the spring, your garlic emerges. In mid-June, this is called stiff-neck garlic, or hard-neck garlic, because it's got a very stiff, once it dries out, it's very stiff. And it'll develop a scape. The name escapes me. That's the way I remember it. It develops a garlic scape, a curlicue, pigtail on the top. And that will develop into a beautiful flower, purple flower if you leave it. But mid-June, cut off the scape very low. And instead of putting the energy of the plant into the flower and seeds, it puts it into making a larger bulb. So between June and July, mid-July, when I do all my harvesting, you're growing the size of your bulbs, of your cloves. And so and by the way, take those garlic scapes, olive oil, salt, put them on the grill, dice them up into a salad, pasta, anything you want. My wife makes garlic scape pesto, which is phenomenal as well. So with the garlic, so each head, you've got with hearts, you got 4, 5, or 6 cloves. So what I do is when I harvest these in June, pull out the plants, got a bulb, put them on my covered porch till Labor Day weekend. Put some newspaper down, and I just let them dry out. And then Labor Day weekend is my annual tradition. Cut off the roots, cut off the stem, goes into the compost pile, and I put them into a paper grocery bag, and they last all winter. So you can see they're just starting to sprout on their own. They know it's springtime. They just start to sprout, but we'll eat these. We still got enough to last us through mid-July. We give away some. Oh, and then also in Labor Day weekend, what I take is when I take these out, dry them out, and then come time to plant, I find my largest heads and the largest cloves. Those are the ones I plant. So essentially, I haven't bought new garlic. I keep breeding the largest heads, and the smaller ones are the ones that we can give away. So that's the trick. This is elephant garlic. Technically, it's in the onion family, not garlic. You can see it's got a slightly different. So this is elephant garlic in the middle, and these grow softball size heads. I cultivate for the largest cloves. So those are the ones I'm going to put aside for seed to plant for the next season. Questions?
So Michael, underneath this is a big sheet of this type
No,
of
nothing. Dirt.
Just dirt.
Just dirt.
We talk about cutting.
Yeah.
Oh, cutting. I'll put it on top. So let's say right now I've covered everything with mulch, but if that wasn't covered, or even I just still say, you know what, you can see, there's already things starting to pop through, some weeds. I'll put the fabric on the top, and I'll cut an X in this size, so that I can push this into the ground an inch, and then put my seedling right inside there, and I leave this on top. By the way, that also warms up keeps the heat in, and is good for almost all plants. Also fries any weeds that start to come out.
PVC pipe.
This is PVC pipe, but use anything, right? Your deli containers, your deli quart containers, or these are my yogurt containers.
Do you think the compost from the DPW is safe to use on your edible produce?
I think so, and I've used it.
Yeah.
I find it also sometimes has pebbles in it.
Yeah.
So I'm always, yes, but...
Like if people are using chemicals on their lawn and that goes into it.
Right. It could. Yeah, it's no guarantees there.
Yeah.
So that's where I do, and of course, as I said, when I get a farmer to dump half a payload of cow manure, composted cow manure, I'm more likely to say that that's going to be more organic.
Yeah. When you replant, do you with your bulb
Garlic?
Yeah. Do you take off like the peel and put the shiny part in?
No.
Or-
You don't take off that extra skin.
Yeah.
So what you do, just take that, break it up. And you can see there's a flat side and a pointy side that is already naturally in the basement started to sprout. That's what you put 6 inches down. I use the tulip is used for planting tulips. It's a little shovel, round shovel. Just put it in, throw this in there, make sure it's pointy side up, and drop the dirt back on top. Put mulch in. So if you can keep the weeds away and water it once a week, if it doesn't rain enough, you got garlic all year round.
So I've known Michael for more than 25 years. We used to work in a similar company. But I wanted to ask Michael, do you rotate your beds? Because that's what something like I've heard like.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do rotate the beds, and every time I think I don't need to rotate my beds, all of a sudden you have some failure. You got more fungus or insects or something. I think you can avoid it if you heavily compost with new nutrients. I think that's probably a safer way to do it. But yeah, this garlic in these 2 plots, I think I had here like 5 years ago. I've used other plots for the last 5 years and rotated it around. I think I had tomatoes here and switch it up every now and then.
Yeah, it's partly because the pests learn where they live.
Yeah,
They're like in the witness protection program. They got to sleep a different
into
place.
the soil. Yeah, it becomes systemic with some of the diseases, and so moving it around is important.
So like once you harvested all this,
Yeah.
do you then, at the end of the season, whatever, do you then put more compost on top and mulch and just let it sit?
Yep,
Then-
I'll do that. Or since I'm pulling out the
Yeah.
garlic in mid-July, after the heat of the summer, also I can plant lettuce. You can put in some carrots.
Mhm.
Got to keep it. If it's good and bad luck, put in carrots, and then have late season carrots in there. So one of the things I've learned through the years, and it talks about it in the Vegetable Gardener's book, is how do you extend your seasons? How do you do more than succession planting, they call it? Plant lettuce every 2 weeks, and then you're eating it every 2 weeks, not all at once that it comes in. This is underneath here, this is a fabric cover. Underneath there, I've got beets, radishes, carrots, and I'm forgetting some lettuce. I'm forgetting that. That's a way early season. Keep it covered in case there's a frost, but keep the pests off of it. You've got more heat going in early season. It's going to be cool this coming week. You've got more heat going into it, and then I'll take the cover off once the plants get established, and then you can do that late season as well.
You need to protect the strawberries from birds or anything.
Ah, yes. Yes, I have found. I mean, there's a children's book. Whose garden is it? The ants, the flies, the bees, the rabbits, the chipmunks, the deer, and us. How do whose garden is it? And so, protection. First, I've got fencing all the way around. You'll also notice a trick around fencing. 2 tricks around fencing, I believe. A couple tricks around fencing. One is 6 inches into the ground, and it keeps your burrowing animals from going right under. So that's one. Number 2, don't use chicken wire. If you want to keep out chickens or keep in chickens, use chicken wire. Otherwise, bunnies, voles, mice, anything else, right through your chicken wire. So I have found what's most effective, this 1/2-inch galvanized thing works best. It's expensive, but it's going to last decades. Put 1 layer of fencing down. Never put multiple layers of fencing. Oh, someone's got some fencing there. I'll put another fencing next to it. All you're doing is creating a home for weeds to grow through, and you can't get those weeds. And so 1 layer fencing. If you want to put something up higher, this keeps out more things, and then this keeps out the deer, which one year found their way to jump over.
Yeah.
So that's what I do to help keep.
Even though it's a light net, they won't try. when
They
see
seem
them.
to see it. Sometimes I'll put some string through it just to make it more visible. So that keeps that. And then to your question on strawberries. Birds love strawberries, mice love strawberries, rabbits love strawberries. And what I do is I just take some netting, either this or a little bit thicker netting, and I cover it all up. It helps keep some of the animals from going in underneath it if you've got it tied down on the sides. It helps keep the birds from going on top of it. And that way I can eat more.
I've heard some people, though, I mean, sometimes the netting catches the birds and you wind up killing birds alive.
Yes, that
Way
is.
to prevent that, or?
Hold your netting down tight. Don't find a place where the birds can get in underneath.
Oh,
You want to do your best. I use these, I either use bricks or fabric staples, I think they call them. And keep your netting down so the birds can't get fouled in it.
Can you plant garlic in spring if you miss the fall, or no success?
What you're not gonna get the bulb. It has to overwinter to get the bulb.
Second year?
Yeah. No, it's not a second year. It's a once per year thing. So do it in the fall, harvest out, and then you plant again in the fall. Yeah, so if you leave them in the ground, and sometimes I'll miss one, I'll go to dig them up and miss them, say, you'll get essentially 4 plants, right? The next season will come up, but they won't create a bulb unless they overwinter.
We're getting
Pantry.
other than an occasional tomato, which might make its way to 9 Quarterly Road. So there's also a collection point down here for other gardeners to put excess produce, and I pick it up every Tuesday morning at 9 and take it over to the food pantry. The food pantry serves, according to their website, about 200 families in Wellesley. So this garden is just producing a fraction of what they use for fresh produce. They also purchase a lot with contributions and whatnot. But what I'm trying to do here is, first of all, use as much of the space as I can. And you can see there's a bit of space that theoretically could be used. And also to grow things that have some volume, like squash or zucchini, things that grow pretty quickly. I tried beans last year, but I didn't get enough of them. And for me to come over here Tuesday morning and pick beans and then hope it's enough to make a show, I said, I don't want to do that. So what we've got growing here, so this is garlic, which was planted in the fall. Several beds have not been planted, and we'll walk around and I'll tell you about specific beds, why they look the way they do and what's going on. Unlike Michael and John, who have decades of experience, I have 1 year of experience. But if you've got good sun, which we have here, and water and decent soil, things tend to come up. The biggest problem is the bugs and the critters. And that's why you'll see on a lot of the little stuff, I have little cages around it, even though this fence is supposed to keep things out, but I don't quite trust it. One thing that I did last year, this is actually my second year, I had the soil tested. I sent it to UMass. I don't know if you know, they have a program to do that. And I was happy when it came back and said that all of the soil here really was quite rich. And they had a couple of little suggestions about how to amend it, to add some blood meal, but that was it. So I haven't done much in terms of fertilizing it all. Of course, even if we fertilize, it has to be organic because this is an organic garden. And so I rely mostly on the mulch, which is supplied from the pile over there. Probably Michael has told you a lot of this stuff, so if you're... the mulch comes from Dana Hall, from the riding stables. And it's a wonderful way to make sure you keep in the moisture. And at the end of the year, as you'll see, this is a garden or plot that was that I haven't touched this year. At the end of the year, I put down cardboard, which keeps in moisture as well, and then deteriorates over the year, over the winter. And then a thick layer of mulch. See here, the cardboard is already all deteriorated. And that's sort of the only fertilizing that I'll do this year. We'll see how it works out. So anyway, just going around the garden. Any questions?
So if you've been doing this 1 year, someone had this plot prior to you?
Yes, they did.
Were the beds here and you took them on?
The beds were here. I took them on. The beds, the potato boxes over there. If you're starting a garden, I would not advise raised beds. I think they use up space. And again, I don't think Michael had raised beds. John Spencer doesn't use them. And if you do want to have raised beds, do not take concrete blocks because you get weeds growing up in all the openings, which is not great. So here are beets that are planted, and although they're hard to see, you can see they're coming a little bit. And we've got some kind of a volunteer there that I think is probably squash or watermelon or something. Here's some peppers, which are not exactly thriving, but I put in the seedlings a couple of days ago. Like Michael, I put the cottage cheese containers cut off the bottoms to keep the water in one space and not running off somewhere. This I had probably these chemicals and inks and everything in there.
Yeah.
And yet you're the first person I've heard that says it's not such a good idea.
Check it out.
I will.
The garden professor.
I will.
It's because there's a whole design the garden thing.
Yeah. Yes.
He said,
Don't do
it. Your soil. You're not helping.
Well, fortunately, I didn't use it on all of them. So anyway, what I'm doing here, I've got one tomato plant, but then I've also planted carrots around it because they grow quite slowly. Here are some not very straight rows of lettuce, which I planted maybe 3-4 weeks ago.
I was just commenting how
Straight
impressed
they
I
were.
was.
They look
You think
great.
they're straight or not
They
straight?
look great.
I will thin those out quite a bit as they get bigger. I think they're supposed to have a couple of inches in between.
Yeah, I hate doing that though.
Oh, I know. I did it with a bunch of radishes yesterday in the front again because they grow quite fast and can. I hope we'll get a couple
Radishes are
of
fast growers?
radishes. Yes.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Last year I had pretty good success with radishes. It's always a little bit of a
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that a rain barrel over here?
I think
It is.
And you also have a water source?
Yeah, what I do is fill it up with we have a water source. The town provides water. So there's a hose that I can attach and I just fill up the rain barrel with a hose. I was just thinking the other day I should find some way to, when it rains, to funnel it in. And it may just be a matter of drilling a hole. So I think these must be huge.
yes, that's the scallions. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't planted them, so.
Yay, that bonus.
My chives came out. Their chives came out.
Yeah, sure.
So I need to renew my soil because it hasn't been good the last couple of years
Yeah.
and it's depleted. So do I order just fill it back with just compost, or the loam 50% and compost 50%?
If I had to add soil here, I would just go to Home Depot and buy some of the garden soil that they have there. But what you might do, I don't know if you didn't hear, when I started here last year, I sent a soil sample to the University of Massachusetts.
Yeah, I did
Have
that.
you done that?
It's completely like depleted.
Oh, okay.
Nothing in there anymore.
Okay.
So I thought I'd just put everything out, like take everything out and just start from scratch.
Ask John about that because I'm still a novice, I haven't had to do that. Last year, I did turn over all of these beds and added soil, garden soil that I bought at Home Depot. This year, I have not done that. First of all, I don't want to spend the money.
Yeah.
And also, excuse me?
What are these guys?
These are squash ones,
Oh, okay.
some are squash. And I've just put the cages around them to discourage the critters.
Labor Day weekend.
Had a bunch of stuff on down here, so we have a place to sit. Thank you very much. I'll tell Wendy and Summer I saw you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, John, for coming here. And come by any time in the year. I'm usually here in the afternoon.
We can buy sale squash.
What's that? For you, it's $5 a piece.
Come on in, everybody. I'm John,
Oh, please.
and I am on the tour to convince you to start a garden. I'm going to show you how to do it. Come on in and see what I've done. So here's the deal. I want you all to try to start a garden, and I'm going to show you the lazy man's way to do it.
Perfect.
Garden plants need 4 things. They need air, water, sunlight, not a lot for some plants, but some, and a little something to feed on. And it's all in how you take care of the soil. So I have these beds here ready to go for corn, and I put the air in by just doing that. So I don't till, I just get the air in by doing what's called broad forking. That lets the air and lets the water go in there. You can do the same thing by just putting down a piece of cardboard on anything you've got. Grass, anything, weeds. It'll block all the things that are growing there, and put about 4 inches of store-bought compost on top, or compost that you got it, and plant right in. That cardboard will disappear in about 5 or 6 months. The worms will come right up and eat it.
Yeah, it does.
Anyway, this is a lazy man's way of doing it, and it's worked fine for me. Put it on top of wherever you want your garden. Put about 4 inches of compost on it, plant right into it. You'll be good to go. Good to start. Then you can go from there. And I've done that here, and it helps you control the weeds. Doesn't do anything about the water in the soil. It's fine. The water gets through. And anyway, it seems to work fine. And that's a lazy man's way of doing it. So you can see here, I've got a lot of different things growing. So I try to grow a large variety of different things. And you'll find if you plant, you'll have some things that'll be a great success and some failures. And you need to be prepared to share because critters all want to eat. I was gone last week and I put the tomatoes in earlier than I normally would. And I put these collars around them to keep the cutworms off, but 2 of the collars blew off and I've lost 2 plants that just got cut right off by the cutworms. Wow. So I've got some spares to fill in. My point being that no matter what you do, you'll have success and failure. Most of the time, it's success. And I think one of the keys to having a fun garden is to mingle flowers in with your vegetables. So there's some marigolds planted in with these tomatoes. That is, not only looks nice, but it confuses the bugs because it gives off a scent that confuses the bugs looking for the scent of a tomato. They smell the marigold and they go, no, not for me, I'm not going to go here. And some plants just don't attract bugs. I've never had anything go wrong with my peas. All the onion family plants seem to be not bothered by bugs. Of course, I've got a fence around here to keep the rabbits away because they would eat, they'd eat the peas. And I was saying that the tall onion plants in the back there, those are garlic. So I haven't bought garlic in over 20 years. You just take a clove from what you've harvested, put it in the ground in the fall, sit back and relax, and it grows. It's the easiest thing to grow in the world. The allium plants, I think, are probably the easiest plants to grow. So onions, shallots, and garlic especially is the most high-value plant I've got going here. And a lot of, I was telling her before, a lot of what going here, these are gifts from friends and neighbors. So all these peonies, people were moving out of their house. They said, you want them? I said, sure. My cousin gave me some rhubarb. And so sharing is really part of being a good garden too. It's fun. And the other thing I love to do is save seed. So all these tomato plants are from Save Seed. And I think there's something about saving the seeds. The seeds are adapted to your environment. So when I save seeds for flowers, I put the flower seed in and I say, put them in the ground and I step back because they'll sprout up and grow very, very nicely. Even the tulips, those are volunteers from the tulips going over here. They just sort of float over and I put them together in one bed. It's great.
Nice.
Root crops are a little tricky to grow. Especially I wouldn't start with a cardboard here because they can't send their taproot down. But leafy greens, peppers, tomatoes, those will be fine in this starting your garden. In the back here, these poles are hops. And those are harvested from the wild in Maine and from my son-in-law who had a hop yard in his house. I used to give them to my sons-in-law to make beer, but now I'm using them to make hop water, which is just infuse it into a seltzer. And it's really, if you ever see it in the store, try it. It's a really delicious drink. Better than just straight seltzer.
These ones,
Those are hops, yeah. I call it instant gratification because that'll be up usually by the 9th or 10th of May. That'll be 8 or 9 feet tall.
Oh my God. 9th or 10th of June?
No, May. And we have some beehives over here. And you could tell the difference in the pollination with bees in the neighborhoods. The bees have had a tough time too. Last year there was a tremendous die-off in New England. So I'll encourage you all to try this and see what can happen.
That kills the surrounding plants, and then it takes over. So invasive species are so good at what they're doing, invading, because they change the environment around them to suit their needs, right? So it's kind of crazy. But garlic mustard, you can make an excellent garlic mustard pesto. I've had. Same. You want to try that?
Yeah,
So This vernal pool is part of the North 40, the 40 acres, right? Plus 40 plus acres that we got from Wellesley College. This is a special habitat, okay? What makes a vernal pool not just a big puddle in the woods is that it is a breeding ground for 3 species of animal. And if you find at least one of those 3 species of animal breeding in that body of water, then you can classify it as a vernal pool, and it adds a layer of protection to that spot. So that water and 100 feet around that water will be protected because it is habitat for these organisms. And the things that live there or need it are the wood frog, the spotted salamander, and fairy shrimp. So those 3 organisms only mate in vernal pools. The wood frog and the salamander don't live in the water. They go to the water to mate, and then they live in the upland. So about the only time you see a spotted salamander above ground is when it's going to a vernal pool to mate. Then it leaves, after it leaves its eggs, it goes back down into its burrow, which is usually like 6 feet underground. You don't see it again, right? The wood frog lives in a leaf litter up here, and they'll eat bugs and stuff like that, right? And they blend in because they're all browns, so they have perfect camouflage. And they only go there really to mate, okay? And in the winter, the wood frogs, which is really cool, and you can Google this, when they're in the upland in the winter, they bury themselves in the leaf litter and they will freeze like a popsicle, right? And the wood frog will freeze, and then in the spring, it melts and comes back to life. It's like the craziest thing. So you could Google, you know, melting wood frog coming back to life and watch this process happen. It's pretty amazing. They have a special sugar in their cells that prevent their cells from exploding when they freeze. Like, our cells can't freeze because we have so much water in us. Water expands when it freezes. It would burst all our cells, right? So they have a way to combat that. And there's a lot of other animals that use that same kind of method of hibernating over winter. Fairy shrimp, I have not found fairy shrimp in this particular vernal pool, but they look like this. It's a little aquatic crustacean. I took that picture of a fairy shrimp in a white soup spoon. You could see the abdomen, there's an egg sac there and little eggs in the egg sac. That's just with a regular camera and a fairy shrimp in a soup spoon, right? They live in the vernal pool water. They die at the end of the season when the vernal pool dries out, right? The vernal pool only fills with water by runoff, right? So rain, sleet, snow, or hail, there's no inlet or outlet. That's also part of making it a vernal pool. There's no groundwater filling it. It dries at some period during the year. That's important because then what can't live in there? Fish, right? Can't live fish in there, and if fish don't live in there, you don't have so much competition eating your eggs if you're a frog and a salamander, right? So that's why they use this as their breeding. And if you walk to the end here, come here, I'll show you. So we had, yep, those are the wood frogs. There's also probably some spring peepers in there, maybe some toads, a couple of other versions of frogs sometimes use the vernal pool as well, but the obligate species are the wood frog, the spotted salamander, and the fairy shrimp.
Roughly, like, when does the mating occur? When do the eggs come out?
So April, so we call what's called big night.
I know it's loud.
And what happens is when the temperature of the ground is colder than the temperature of the water, it tells all the things that are buried in the mud and muck hibernating, time to come out, and they come out of the mud and muck and come into the water. The end of the season, when the water is colder than the ground, they go down into the mud and muck and hibernate. That's how they know what to do. And then what causes the frogs and the salamanders to come to the vernal pool is that usually it's a spring rain, and it's usually like a warm, wet night. And they come when it's like usually over 60 degrees and it's raining. And then they come from the upland because, again, they're soft bodied. They have to stay moist, right? So they come from the upland and they make their way to the pool. Frogs will come in here and find females and mate. The females will then lay the eggs and then they'll leave, right? The spotted salamander, the male comes out first. It comes into the vernal pool. They can't swim and they can't breathe in the water, so they have to get in and get out before they drown. The males deposit little packets of spermatophores in the leaf litter. Then they leave, and then the females come, and they find those little packets, they take them in their body, it fertilizes their eggs, they lay their eggs, and then they leave. right? And it's all timed up by temperature and by moisture, like those spring, early April rains, you know? So probably, we call it big night. It's the night when a lot of them come, right? But it happens over, you know, a couple of weeks. But yeah, you can hear at night, you'll hear like the frogs chorusing. They sound like ducks quacking. That's what the wood frog sounds like. And then a lot of things will come here and, like, you know, come for a bite to eat. The herons and the small wading birds and stuff will come and eat the tadpoles. And now this is a race against time. This vernal pool will dry out over the summer, right? And so they have to go through their metamorphosis and get out of the water before it dries out, right? And so it really depends on, some years we have better populations than others, depending on drought and things like that. We do have like 6 days of rain predicted for the next like 6 days, which is wonderful because we're in a severe drought right now. So it's kind of nice that we're getting these long periods of rain. Exactly, so that this stays wet a little bit longer, so that it gives the animals time, because not everybody thinks that we should care about the frogs and the salamanders, but they're part of a food chain. And when one thing breaks down in the food chain, it affects everything else up the chain, and we're part of that. People like to think that we live outside of nature, you know, that we're not really part of it, but we are part of it. And if we damage the ecosystems where these things live, it's going to make us unhealthy, right? And that's why we put this boardwalk in, to help preserve this area, because, you know, there's proven literature that people who spend time in nature are healthier. Lower blood pressure, less anxiety, you know, lower cortisol levels, like all sorts of things that make you unhealthy get tamped down if you spend a little time with some trees around you. So, you know, the value of the North 40 property is not really in the value of selling that land to developers. The value is keeping this environment for us, because it's going to keep us healthy as if we keep the rest of the animals and stuff healthy. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, you know, come out and vote when it's time to vote, and, you know, get involved. We always like volunteers and stuff. So if you just have a love of being out in nature, you know, if you're not part of our newsletter to let you know when cool things are happening, please get on our newsletter, and, you know, you can do more fun stuff like this. All right. So this is the pool. We can walk back. I'll show you poison ivy on the way out, because everybody wants to know what that looks like. Wildflower seeds. And I will give you this here. This tells you how to plant it.